One of the drivers here is a very familiar face, George Stauffer of Verona.
He has been racing here for 30 years. We caught up with George in the paddock area earlier today as he was getting ready to take some practice laps before he races this weekend. As you can see, you just don't get behind the wheel and take off. He's strapped in, protective headgear is put on. Finally, he's ready to hit the track. To say racing and cars are in George's blood is a bit of an understatement. We visited his office and private garage outside of Mount Horeb.
This is my toy box.
They are hardly toys. This is George Stauffer's private garage. The toys range from Rolls Royces, a Bentley, lots of Jaguars, and race cars. This is the only Bentley race car privately owned in the entire world. Don't even ask what it's worth. George's car obsession began at an early age.
My wife claims my mother dropped me on my head once too many times.
He grew up in Switzerland. His grade school teachers complained he drew pictures of cars instead of doing his schoolwork. Cars are in George's DNA, but he didn't inherit it.
To my father, a car was something practical. It had to be comfortable, it had to be reliable, and performance, he could care less. It was a tool to him.
What's a car to you?
Passion.
And some 30 years ago, George got the racing bug.
It's the adrenaline, I think, when you're heading up towards the green flag and you're all bunched up and that green flag drops. It's the ultimate high.
Among George's collection is this car, perhaps his pride and joy.
This is a 289 Cobra. It's one of the early models. It's the winningest drag car of all time. It won over 300 races, set 5 world records and 5 track records.
This particular car?
This car, all in the 60s.
What makes this car that special?
This car was built by Carroll Shelby. In the early 60s, he had an idea to take a English body, an English chassis, and put an American motor in it. And this is the result.
At the age of 70, George still hits the track as much as he can, though getting into modern race cars is getting more and more difficult.
You're just in there.
You're in there. The problem with me driving them, these cars, the newer cars, were made for jockey-sized drivers. Unfortunately, I'm horse size. And what's interesting, the door opening on this car, which is an 84, is 34 inches. The door opening on the purple car, which is a 91, is 28 inches. And the Bentley, which is a 01, is 18 inches.
So they really are going for jockey-sized drivers.
They're going for jockey size. So to get into that Bentley, you have to be triple jointed. This is Barca Lounger size compared to the other ones.
This is huge.
Well, the steering wheel comes off, so it's usually easier to get into.
So how fast will this car go?
I was clocked at Elkhart at 210, I think.
And George's favorite racetrack in the entire world? Elkhart Lake.
It has 3 long straightaways where my kind of cars hit over 200 miles an hour in the straightaways and very sharp turns. So you go from 200 miles an hour to 40 miles an hour. And it's my favorite track.
And here is George on the track earlier today. He hasn't driven this particular Le Mans car in a couple of years, so they had a little reacquainting to do. He also had a new transmission put in, a new set of tires. So it took a couple of laps to get into the groove, but by the time he was done with the timing run, they were best friends again.
He waved at you when we were on the bridge. We saw him wave.
Yeah. Thanks, George, for your time.